Continuing this segment of where to start reading comics for beginners, today I'm going to be talking about the world's greatest magazine. That's right, we're going to be talking about where to start reading the Fantastic Four. So, stay tuned. And welcome back, everybody. If you're enjoying these type of videos, please don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. We put out videos every day, and all of that helps with our YouTube algorithm. So continuing the segment of A Beginner's Guide to Comics, this is a list of collected editions, so I do stick to collected editions, graphic novels, of Fantastic Four stories that I think are best suited for beginners, where to start reading the Fantastic Four in comic book format. This is a list for people that have never read a single issue of Fantastic Four, or if you have, this is a list for your friends and family if you want to gift them a collected edition. So yes, I am sticking to collected editions because, well, it's a more affordable way to pass these stories on to the next generation or to your friends and family, unless you've got the dosh to, buy Fantastic Four #1. But man, if you do, that's really cool. But anyway, I'm going to be talking about the different collected editions that these stories are collected in as well. And if you're interested in other beginner's guide, like I've done one for Batman, I've done a where to start reading Spider-Man and horror comics, I do have a playlist. It's the Beginner's Guide playlist. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm mainly sticking to the 616 universe, the stuff that's in canon, the standard Marvel universe as it's known, but then I also have alternate reality stories towards the end. And by all means, leave your list down below, because there are things I wanted to add. I love Tom DeFalco and Paul Ryan's run on Fantastic Four, but I cannot think of a story to put in there that is a good introductory to these characters. So if you do, by all means, please leave it down below. Let's go ahead and get started. Fantastic Four by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, where it all began in 1961. Normally when I do these lists, you're probably going to hear me say, now, this is just for completists. If you want to go to the beginning and find out how everything started, by all means, start here. I'm not just suggesting these comics here for the completists. I'm suggesting these stories for a great place to start reading the Fantastic Four, because this is where everything began. And you not only see the evolution of the characters, but you also get to see the evolution of the writer and artist and see how well they work together. These are the stories that introduced us to Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Girl, who will later become Invisible Woman, The Thing, and the Human Torch. But it introduced also all these villains like Dr. Doom, the Mole Man, Annihilus. It introduces us to Franklin Richards, the most powerful mutant. I don't know if that's still a thing going on, but hey, retcons, what are you going to do? But if you're a fan of anything cosmic in the Marvel Universe, whether it's the cinematic universe or the comics, this is really where all the origins came from. And it's in these issues of 102 issues. There are some phenomenal stories in here. The introduction of Black Panther, the introduction of the Inhumans, the coming of Galactus, and of course the introduction of the Silver Surfer. And that's just to name a few. But if you stick with it, if you go all the way until the end, you will be rewarded with some of the best comics ever created, regardless of the times that they were created in. That's why I'm suggesting starting from the beginning. The omnibus is going to be reprinted. There are epic collections available, Marvel Masterworks, Mighty Marvel Masterworks of the Fantastic Four, and also just trade paperbacks. So, and all this is available digitally as well. So 100% starting from this point here. Fast forward a couple of decades later, and we're moving on to Fantastic Four by John Byrne. Back to the basics, as it's known. So John Byrne was the artist on Uncanny X-Men, and he did try to dabble into some writing. I think he sent a script out to Coca-Cola featuring the Fantastic Four, and they deemed it too violent. So what ended up happening was Marvel decided to print those stories as a two-parter in their ongoing comics. So in 1981, John Byrne came over and then started not only drawing and inking, so not penciling and inking, but also writing the Fantastic Four, and really modernized the characters for that generation. So we are talking about the early 80s, and oh my gosh, it is so good. He took the elements that Stan and Jack put in their first few issues and just kind of matured them a little bit. He gave more of a spotlight to Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, There are a lot of heartbreaking issues in here. And it is a little bit of a slow burn at first. You start to see him getting used to these characters. But by the time you're 10 issues in, you start seeing why this is such a beloved run of the Fantastic Four. Me, I think this is my favorite portrayal of the Thing. He introduces us to She-Hulk as a member of the Fantastic Four, replacing one of the other members. And there are a lot of things that he brings back. He brings back a lot of the villains, like Dr. Doom, Diablo. He has ties into the X-Men with all of this. It's, to me, one of the greatest jumping on points because of the maturity that he has with the storylines in here. It's like taking those classic 60s stories, not that there's anything wrong with the Silver Age, and just giving them more of an adult feel to them. And they do feel like real people and characters. Now, Marvel has stated that they are going to be reprinting John Byrne's first omnibus, so hopefully that will lead into the reprint of the second omnibus. But these are also available in Visionaries, Marvel Visionaries, and in Marvel Masterworks format. So the stories have been out there for a while now. I just mentioned X-Men, so of course I'm going to be talking about X-Men vs. the Fantastic Four. This was a limited series by Chris Claremont and John Bogdanove, and this was in the aftermath of the Mutant Massacre. So this is more for people that were fans of the X-Men but have never really read the Fantastic Four. So all of this has to do with Kitty Pryde not being able to solidify herself. She is stuck in this phase stage, and they're trying to get the help of Dr. Richards, and Reed is like, nah, sorry, I can't help you. For some reason. So they go to Dr. Doom instead, and then there's this whole secret history of Dr. Richards with his journal. Turned out he wasn't such a nice guy, but anyway, you can find out. It's only 4 issues available in Marvel Premiere format, available in hardcover format, available in part of the omnibus editions. So it's widely available, and to me, one of my favorite stories. And you got the X-Men fighting the Fantastic Four. The year is 1990, and I'm going to talk about the new Fantastic Four. In 3 issues, Walter Simonson and Arthur Adams are able to just bring back that fun of the Fantastic Four. And Walter Simonson, through his run, even though it was short, never really lost his sense of fun. And honestly, nowhere is it more evident than the classic freaking kaiju, mole man fight against the Fantastic Four. So the story is pretty simple. Mr. Fantastic, the Thing, and the Human Torch have been quote-unquote killed. So Sue Storm replaces them with a brand new Fantastic Four. And who does she replace them with? Why, no other than the 4 popular characters that were around in Marvel in the early 90s. So you have Wolverine, Ghost Rider, the Hulk, and Spider-Man just teaming up. And they did bring them back from time to time, but I thought it was such a great series with phenomenal artwork. It's just a lot of fun, and this mainly is for people that are into the giant monsters, the kaiju type of stories, with phenomenal artwork that has throwbacks to those kaiju movies. 100% recommended. Found in Epic Collections, which is getting a reprint. Found in a small trade paperback edition. No oversized hardcover. I really wish they would do an omnibus of this era or an oversized of Walter Simonson's era, but 100%, it's a lot of fun, and these 3 issues represent how much fun the Fantastic Four can be. Heroes Reborn. Now, hear me out, because I did say I love Tom DeFalco's run, but I couldn't find a good jumping on point. But Heroes Reborn has something going for it, despite of how people feel about it, despite how I feel about the story. It has phenomenal artwork, and that gets a lot of people to check out comics they normally would not check out. Just think of the sales of Batman when Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee did the Hush storyline, or for that matter, Superman for Tomorrow when Brian Azzarello and Jim Lee took over the book. But I am talking about the Heroes Reborn era when Marvel sent over the Fantastic Four along with other Marvel characters for a year to a lot of the Image creators, and Jim Lee, Brandon Choi, and Scott Williams got to tackle the Fantastic Four. Beautiful artwork. It's up to you whether you like the story or not, but if you want a good jumping on point with phenomenal artwork and you're a fan of Jim Lee, then look no further than Heroes Reborn. And hey, I added Heroes Return here because I think this is a great era of Fantastic Four that doesn't get a lot of recognition too. So this era, mainly because it wasn't collected properly, it has been recently collected in complete collections. So I'm glad that Marvel's actually showing this era some love. Hopefully we'll get some kind of omnibus format. But yes, the Heroes Return, mainly by Scott Lobdell, Chris Claremont, Salvador La Roca, Carlos Pacheco. Just bringing back a lot of elements to the Fantastic Four and modernizing them for the late 90s, early aughts, and what's to come. But the most important thing that they did in this particular era, and I forgot about Alan Davis also being a big part of this, is introduce us to the character of Valeria, the second kiddo of Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman. And she has, much like her brother, untapped powers that Dr. Doom takes an interest in. So through this era, you kind of see what Dr. Doom's relationship is with the Fantastic Four. And I think it's a great introduction or reintroduction to a lot of the villains as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I'm not counting. That's the actual title. Now, this was a Marvel Knights book, and some people are divided with Marvel Knights, whether it was really canon, whether this actually took place in the 616 universe, or whether it's in its own pocket universe. I decided to include it in here because it's just a good story. So this is Grant Morrison and Jay Lee teaming up to tell a really dark side of the Fantastic Four that we don't get to see too often. Because oftentimes, when you think of the Fantastic Four, you think of vibrant colors, you think of really dynamic and colorful villains. But in this, it's all dark. So what they do is dive deep into the darker aspects of the Fantastic Four. And it's when the team's greatest foes band together and team up against the Fantastic Four. It is a very good, intelligent, atmospheric, and very insightful story. And I can't imagine another team doing this type of story. Morrison really puts it all out there in the way they feel about the Fantastic Four and how the family should be written. Fantastic Four by Mark Waid and Mike Wieringo. Now, if you've been following my channel for a while, you probably know that this is my favorite Fantastic Four run. And I think why that is because Mark Waid and Ringo are able to capture the magic of what Stan and Jack did in the early days in a different way than what John Byrne did in the 80s. So they bring back the family aspect to the Fantastic Four. And there's a beautiful tribute to Jack the King Kirby in here. I'm not going to spoil that, but this particular story has been available in trade paperback formats. It's been available in an omnibus edition and in complete collections, so it's widely available. Even though his Fantastic Four work is generally underappreciated, Waid just simply nails the adventure part of what makes the Fantastic Four. At its heart, the series is all about a family who have special powers, but more importantly have a special bond with, yes, a unique added dynamic of being superheroes, battling whether it's interdimensional beings or just corporations that are trying to take over the city. So, and the twist that he did with Dr. Doom in his new costume, oh my gosh, that was awesome. I loved it. So it does have some dark elements in there. Fantastic Four, Iron Man, big in Japan. I had to put this on this list for people that love anime, manga, and just Japanese pop culture. And if this is your first time hearing of Seth Fisher's artwork, then I hope I do it justice by showing just a couple of pages. Sadly, we lost him way too young, much like Mike Wieringo. But the story is pretty basic. This is a story written by Zeb Wells, and it's just a manic fusion of Marvel superheroes and Japanese pop culture. It was a 4-issue miniseries, and the Fantastic Four are part of this all-out monster fight, guest starring the majority of the Marvel universe. It's just a lot of fun, and like I said, Fisher's artwork was just so unique, and he didn't have a lot of work under his belt, and sadly we lost him. As a matter of fact, I think he was out celebrating the final issue of Big in Japan when he passed away. But yeah, it's sad when we lose talent like that. We don't get to see him, or Ringo for that matter, just become the masters that they were meant to be. Marvel Knights 4, or just 4, by Roberto Aguirre Sacasa. And this is the first time that I saw Steve McNiven's artwork, too. That's what led me to purchase this series. This is available in a Marvel Premiere format, just like the 1, 2, 3, 4. It's available in trade paperback format. Now, this was a limited series. This was an ongoing series. It had some phenomenal artwork, but I really enjoyed Sacasa's take on the family. The series focuses more on the individual lives of each of the team members of the Fantastic Four and how they learn to cope with just simply being human. and then what happens when the Fantastic Four are held responsible for all the mayhem caused when fighting supervillains in New York City, which we've seen before in the pages of Planet Hulk. You know, Hulk gets blamed for all the rampage. It was kind of 50-50. Most of the time it's his fault that buildings are falling down. So it's interesting to see the Fantastic Four be a little more human, because they end up losing their superhero gig, they end up losing their home, and they have to find a means to an end. So that's why I really enjoy this series. I think it's a good breakdown of what makes them the characters they are, by not really stripping them of their powers, but just making them more human and more relatable. And I think it's a great introduction to these characters. It's a little more mature theme, kind of like Grant Morrison's 1, 2, 3, 4, but not as dark as that. Reconstruction. Dwayne McDuffie's short-lived run on the Fantastic Four has just been forgotten. I never hear anyone talk about his Fantastic Four run, and it's a sin because it was so good. And had it been longer, had he had the chance of writing the stories longer before Mark Millar came over, I think he would have done wonders with these characters. This is a good introduction to the basics of who the Fantastic Four are, and this is reconstructing the Fantastic Four during the Initiative, so after Civil War, and he's able to do wonders with it. This was a great jumping on point because, well, he didn't really send away a couple of characters. I think editorial made him send away a couple of the characters, but he gave us Storm and Black Panther, and he gave us a great Silver Surfer story in the short time that he was there. He made the stories fun again, because during Civil War, everything was just so dark and you didn't know who to trust, and it was just back to being fun again, reconstructing the idea of what makes the Fantastic Four who they are, why it is the world's greatest magazine. And sadly, yeah, he passed away a few years ago, so we'll never really get to see his take on the Fantastic Four again, but available in trade paperback format. There's a standard hardcover format of this run too. So these are available in trade paperback format. There are standard size hardcovers of this run, and they also have beautiful covers by Michael Turner. The one that everybody puts on their list, I'm sure, but I don't care, it needs to be on that list, and that is Fantastic Four by Jonathan Hickman. So Jonathan Hickman got to revamp and do whatever he wanted to with the Fantastic Four, starting with that Dark Reign tie-in with the kids. Oh, I love that miniseries. It was so good. It was such a fun take on the kids, because you see a lot of grown-up stories up until that point. You don't really focus on the kids of the Fantastic Four. So you get to see a side of Valeria and a side of Franklin that you hardly got to see during that time. This is probably one of the most interesting and well-planned Fantastic Four series. He had a lot of grand ideas and executes them well, and that's probably due to the fact that he was given a couple of years to write these stories, so he was kind of given free will to set up these stories and then give us the payoff that we rightly deserved. And then he also spun the series off into the FF, the Future Foundation, which focused more on the kids and their revenge plot. I'm not going to spoil why. But these are available in omnibus format, and they are coming back into print, available in complete collections, available in trade paperback formats. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, most of the stuff in here is available through the Marvel app or Comixology. The backbone of his story is that Reed Richards wants to cure the world. He wants to heal the world. He wants to end world hunger. And who better to team up with than a council of Reeds from other universes? And there are beautiful, heartbreaking moments in this. And I don't care if you say you don't cry in movies or don't cry in books, they will make you tear up, because everyone has a family. So we can all relate to a particular story. Oh my gosh. There's a line in here that tears me up every time. But anyway, 100% recommended. It's amazing. The setup is great. The payoff is wonderful. To me, it's probably my favorite work that he did at Marvel. Maybe. I don't know. House and Powers of X was great too, but we haven't seen the payoff of that yet. We haven't seen the ending of that yet. So hopefully he'll come back and write that. But anyway, I'll do an Where Does Our Reading Expand later. Let's go back to Fantastic Four. And to wrap up the list before we talk about alternate realities, The Return. It's Dan Slott and Sarah Pichelli coming back and bringing the characters of the Fantastic Four back to Marvel Comics. For a short while after Secret Wars, the Fantastic Four magazine was canceled. The comic book was gone. The world's greatest magazine, Marvel's first family, The reason why we have Marvel superhero comics was gone for 3 years, from 2015 to 2018. So the return was a huge deal to a lot of people. To me, it was like going back home. It was like, oh, this makes sense. This is what we've been missing from comics. This title right here. We get to see the return of not just Doom, but his nation Latveria. We get to see brand new villains, brand new threats, and more importantly, we get to see the kids actually age a little bit. In comic books, it seems really strange, and I say that as of this video, by the way. The kids always remain small. Like Franklin Richards had been the same age since I started reading comics, all the way back in the early 80s, until just recently, really, during Jonathan Hickman's run and then Dan Slott's run. It seems that they've aged up the kids. Kind of a retcon in there, but I still refuse to believe that retcon on Franklin Richards. But anyway, there is a division with fans, though, whether this is good or not. To me, I think it started off okay, but then it got strong. I think there are a lot of things, a lot of plot points that Dan Slott got to do and that have been building up for years, such as certain marriages. And I think he's just having fun, and the book is just back to the basics. I don't think anything can top, of course, those Jack Kirby, Stan Lee years, or for me, the Wade and Ringo years. But yeah, I think this particular run gets a lot of hate, but I don't know if it's justified or not. I know that, like I said, but if you think otherwise, by all means, leave your comments down below. Now, let's talk about some alternate realities. Kicking it off with Unstable Molecules. And this is named after the unstable molecules that make up their costumes. That's why Mr. Fantastic can stretch and his clothing stretches, or the Human Torch's clothes don't burn off, because it's made of unstable molecules. What you won't see in this book, though, are superhero costumes, or superheroes for that matter. This is a pretty interesting and unique take on the Fantastic Four, because it's not about Reed, Sue, Johnny, or Ben. It's more about the people that they are based on. So this is writer James Stern and then Guy Davis joining him. They conceived this series on the premise that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby based the Fantastic Four on 4 of their acquaintances who were anything but fantastic. But I think it's a great story that shouldn't be missed for people trying to get into comics. I added it on the list because it's for the people that normally don't like superhero comics. So I think this is a great way to get you to read a Fantastic Four comic. This is available in hardcover format as well as a trade paperback, and this can be found digitally. Fantastic Four Giant Size Adventures. I think this is the only book on the list that I could not find in a specific collected edition. I think it's just a standalone. It's a giant size book, and not the dimensions of it, but just how many pages are in there. But Giant Size Adventures, to me, I think is a fun jumping on point to the Fantastic Four, taken, of course, out of continuity. This is written by Paul Tobin and penciled by Colleen Coover, and honestly, this is the Fantastic Four versus some tabloid photos. So it's them against the media. But you throw in all their other characters, like Psycho Man and the Basilisk, Cobalt Man, Star Slayer, Invincible Man, and just a host of other bad guys to take down the world's greatest family. And to me, I think this is a good jumping on point because it introduces you to all these villains all at one time in just one book. That's what makes the Fantastic Four a lot of fun, is they're very colorful villains. Fantastic Four Season 1, available in trade paperback and in hardcover format. I know I added Spider-Man Season 1 on my alternate realities for Spider-Man, so of course I have to add this in here. It's a good modern take on the Fantastic Four, just reimagining them with a modern twist. So what you're doing is revisiting the story that changed comics and pulp culture, and just modernizing the characters of Reed Richards, Susan Storm, Johnny Storm, and Ben Grimm as they travel to the stars and return fantastic. But you also get to see the villains in here, like Mole Man and the reimagining of Doctor Doom and Namor, which I forgot to talk about the importance of Namor. They were able to bring Namor back from the Golden Age and reintroduce him to the Silver Age of comics. That book, again, trade paperback and in hardcover format, as well as digital. And to wrap up the list is Ultimate Fantastic Four. You had the architects of the Ultimate Universe, Mark Millar with Ultimate X-Men, Brian Michael Bendis with Ultimate Spider-Man, coming together along with Brian Hitch and then eventually Greg Land and reimagining the Fantastic Four for their Ultimate Universe. Modernizing, even in the way that they got their powers. Instead of taking a rocket and going up into space and getting hit by cosmic rays, they made it into an interdimensional thing and made it, honestly, a little more believable. I know a lot of people really enjoyed this run, and it was a great introduction for a lot of people to the Fantastic Four. Available in hardcover formats, OHCs, oversized hardcover format, trade paperbacks, and hopefully one day there'll be an omnibus of this. The Ultimate Universe seems to be making a comeback in hardcover collections, or in omnibus collections rather. But yeah, 100%. I know several people that got into the Fantastic Four through the Ultimate Fantastic Four run and are still reading the 616 Fantastic Four because of that. So I think it's 100% one of the best places to jump on to the Fantastic Four. And that's my list. If you're interested in these books and where to purchase them, check out our sponsors. If you live in Europe and are interested in pre-ordering or purchasing Omnis, then you should definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices for Marvel and DC big books within the EU. Flat shipping of €9.90 for EU countries. Extremely careful and sturdy packaging. Emails are answered within 24 hours. And they have a superb selection of new releases and out-of-print books on their website. Just head over to waltscomicshop.com for more great deals and rare titles. And for a limited time, you can use the code Near Mint Condition, all one word, at the checkout for free shipping to all EU countries with your first order. Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for Omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for brand new graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They pride themselves on packaging your books so they arrive safely and in excellent condition, as well as prompt and helpful service. Check out the bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. CGN is excited to announce that they are now taking pre-orders. They're making it easier for you to ensure that you don't miss out on the hottest releases. CGN is currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, let them know that you were referred by Near Mint Condition at the checkout, and you'll receive a credit for free shipping on your next order. This promotion is valid for U.S. customers only. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount and quality shipping and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was my list. By all means, in the comments down below, let me know what you would have taken away, what you would have added, and also let me know what your first Fantastic Four comic was. For me, it's a shame, but mine was Fantastic Four 249, the one with Gladiator on the cover. I just recognized the Imperial Guard, and then that led to 250 with the big fight with the Imperial Guard, and I was an X-Men guy, so that's what led me to the Fantastic Four. And yeah, let me know in the comments down below. Now, I didn't get the monthly. I didn't get that until the Tom DeFalco run. I was buying the monthly. But anyway, let me know in the comments down below what your first Fantastic Four comic was. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Thank you all so much for watching. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Ring that bell for notifications. We are on Patreon and on Spreadshop. Could not be doing these type of videos without all you Patreons. Those are phenomenal ways to support the channel if you can do so. More importantly, everyone, stay healthy and stay safe. Much love.